Good evening, everyone. System Chalk here with the 121st episode of Book of Hours, our first run through YouTube playing as the artist. And I don't know why, I'm actually feeling really excited to play Book of Hours today. I'm not 100% better, but I definitely don't think it's going to be affecting, the voice or anything like that. And, yeah, I don't know. A lot of you have been very, very kind in terms of your comments, whether it's about my health or where the playthrough is going. And of course, we have seen not just the oubliette and the condignator, but of course, some of you. Actually, here is a question for you. Does anybody? This might be one that you want to think about in terms of the lore, because some of you might have thought of this, and some of you may benefit from a reminder. It might be worth recalling when the restoration occurred. And I'm going to leave that as something open for people to ponder as we carry on through the game. Now, I don't really remember all that well what I was doing. We have Mr. and Mrs. Kill. We're talking. That's right. We were going to use Reverend Timothy to do something. Now, I think we've already got our 14. No, okay, so I need to boost Reverend Timothy. I'm going to guess that that will be something that I need my element of the soul. So we've got a memory, we've got... So I'm near certain that we are getting the shaft back from... Yes, okay. So we know the goal for today is to open up the impermeable cell. Now, I guess at this point, I've kind of given up on leveling up resurgences and emergences. That seems to be a bit much for me to try and do today. But I would imagine that drums and dances should be something that I can take care of. The other thing I might want to consider is I may want to take the beguiling melody. I may want to use that in... I might want to take that overnight instead of the gossip. And the logic behind that is a beguiling melody is not something that I can get from Reverend Timothy or Mr. and Mrs. Kill. And so as a result, I know there's no redundancy, whereas technically the gossip is something that I may wind up getting from conversation. And so in that case, I wind up I wind up with less than I otherwise would have gotten. But we won't worry about that too much right now. What I am going to worry about is drums and dances. So that needs four memories to level up. We've got 2 more of those, so I'll put that into the 6th position now. And this one will be a little tricky because we need heart or nectar. So the heart is not that hard to get, but I'm going to need to have a think about whether or not I want to use the earth sign for this sort of thing. I could try 2. I've got a core and a health set aside, but that's a pretty big lift in terms of just being able to get the memories that we need. And of course, with Reverend Timothy, it takes us 45 seconds as opposed to 30. So I'm going to make an effort to get drums and dances leveled for sure, but I don't think we can realistically expect 2. What'll probably happen here is I may even use all 3 with the earth sign. My preference would be to maybe use this health with a blue crown, or to get a blue crown and then only use 2. But we'll see where things go. It's too early in the day for me to really make a firm decision in terms of where it's all going. But as much as I would like to be reading some more of these books, so for instance, The Wonderful Shape is something I should be able to handle, I think the real goal right now is going to be to get resurgences and emergences leveled up, and then, if we have something left over at the end of winter, fine. I might even try to take on something like the wheel-filled spring or the riddling stair. But I think at the moment, let's focus on the skills that I can level up, and then we'll worry about the rest. Okay, I have enough time to... Ooh, this is going to be tough. So if I use my whist, that shuts it down for a minute, and then I spend the next minute trying to restore it, which means if I read a book, I'm only going to get that at the very last second. So in this case, I don't want to go back to the Sweet Bones. I am going to use the Shap to talk to Reverend Timothy. But we'll say that the Sweet Bones is taken care of for today. I also have cataloging to do, but again, the focus right now is to get Drums and Dances leveled up. The books are always going to be there, and we're not looking to acquire more knowledge right now. Okay, speaking of losing things to redundancy, I completely forgot to talk to Reverend Timothy again. Reverend Timothy is always, always happy to chat. Well, I'm talking with him. I forgot to use the Shap, though. It is kind of important that I get this Shapt reasonably soon, because we have already fed him the sacramentasite and such, so if I don't have what it takes to open up the impermeable cell, I do actually lose a consumable that I would have liked to have used. Anyways. It also wouldn't be terrible for me to try and get a Newman back, but again, I think I'm going to focus more on Drums and Dances before I commit too much else. Okay, the solace helps. I don't need to listen to everything Reverend Timothy says. He doesn't really even expect me to, but I'm often glad when I do. So let's talk with him about the Shapt. Education or beguilement? Now I think at this point, let's just say we don't have anything else to push the Drums and Dances up. So we've got Earth Sign, we've got Solace. I'm not going to use the Beguiling Melody. Well, I can't use the Beguiling Melody, and I'm not going to use the Hive's Lament. So here we'll use the Metal and the Whist to get the other heart. And we can actually do a couple of things to make life a bit easier for me. So I'll get a Beguiling Melody, no sorry, not Beguiling Melody, Cheerful Ditty, because that will allow me to that'll allow me to get a heart that Reverend Timothy won't generate. I've already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. And on a similar note, I guess my only real nectar choice here would be the Impulse. And I believe there is a small chance that Reverend Timothy can generate a storm. Although I suppose he wouldn't generate it within the 1 minute that I need. So let's do what does not bark. Moon the Cycle. I've already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. Now, my impulse would have been to take take the health, take the core, and get a blue crown again. I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to read a book to get the Earth Sign back. But that was one of the options that was available to me. I'm also going to talk with Reverend Timothy till the very end of the day. I figure I might as well grab another memory. It's almost certain that I'm going to keep using the Beguiling Melody, but you never know. There might, if there's something that suggests to me that there's a better option, I'll keep myself open. And plus, unlike the friends that everybody is scolding me for keeping all night, not scolding, that's not the right term to use, but Reverend Timothy is very much appreciative of the conversation. So, Reverend Timothy is always, always happy to chat. In fact, at this point, I should be able to read the book that'll get me an Earth Sign without any consequence. So let's do Dirashu Quirkum. Nectar, the Fruits of Knowledge. I've already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. It was raining out today. It probably still is. It's just dark out, so I can't quite see it. But I don't know. The sound is very good for this. But there is something about having the storm in game to accompany the real world feelings. What does not bark? Alexander Probst writes warily of Calyptra, a law, principle, or society which prevents the dissemination of dangerous knowledge. Calyptra, like the planet that occludes the star, or the Doylean dog that fails to bark, can be identified only by its absence. Even the name, I think, must be a mask. Calyptra is said to make exceptions specifically for the libraries of the Watchman's Tree. Does it make those exceptions so the Hours can make use of them? There are storms great enough to shake the moon from the sky and one's thoughts from one's skull. Next up we have the Instruments of the Heart. Sister Isabel, then precentress of the Abbey Church of St. Brendan's, engages in dialogues with a heart-long of a kind called Dwendrazon that has taken partial possession of her body. Dwendrazon, like all its kind, usually dwells in the mansis, but can enter the physical world by manifesting as music and take possession of a willing or semi-willing mortal who hears and loves that music, like Isabella. Isabella records her dreams of the High Mansis, where she is accorded the Dwendrazon status and titles. In return, the Dwendrazon enjoys what it calls Caesura, a welcome oblivion. Our mostly blessing is that we may never cease, except in Caesure. There's something more that Isabella refers to as the Caesura Magna, but she laments that her Dwendrazon will not tell her exactly what that might be. So there's our cheerful ditty. So let's take the time. We will grab drums and dances, the health, the lesson, fill it up. So satisfying to have come so far, improve the skill to level 5. So you can see here we already have sort of the formula for getting to level 6. There's not too much of a worry about me being able to level up drums and dances. Although, as always, I want to be careful with resurgences, or I want to be careful that I don't spend all of my time on something that I can fairly easily level up when resurgences and emergences is sitting there. So we might actually make an attempt on resurgences and emergences tomorrow, although I think the idea was that I would try and wait for a rainy day. Alright, so that's lots of gossip that we got from Timothy, which is not a huge surprise, but not helpful. So we will go to bed thinking of the beguiling melody. Now that night has fallen, I can rest and perhaps dream on the day's doings. Dreaming on a memory will preserve it past dawn, allowing you to keep it until the following day. And a sign outside the cell reads, "Warning, not to be spoken with nor looked upon. The protections that still hang in the air lend force to the injunction." And so we use Reverend Timothy's great power of opening to get to the second to last room in the Cougar bed. We do still have the sagging dock to worry about. Sagging dock might be one that I have to hold on to for a while because I need to think about how I'm going to pull that off. Again, we always have the option of getting the higher level visitors, but we've gotten so far without them. The skill is now level 5. Its power aspects have also increased. Drums and dances. The first musics were not made by mortals, but taken from Sandcoil and Sea Thorn, from Flint Heart and Dragon Womb. And finally we have Derashu Quirkum. In English, the title translates roughly as The Account of the Oaks, but this is Nathaniel Darcy Evers' fascinating, if haphazard, survey of the occult properties of every tree he can find, not just oaks. In Persia, Taxus Bacata, the yew is called Sorkdar, which is the red tree. There they had long understood the Grail root. In later times, the great king of Pontus had beehives set in the branches of the oldest of the female trees. The berries of the Pontine yew open the door to death, but the honey of their flowers opens a different door entirely. This was not the great king's Mithridate, but one who had suckled at the great yew fears poison no longer. Perhaps they should. Nathaniel here is distracted, however, by the toxic properties of certain inks. He does mention more usefully that the minor ink of power Yew-Gall can be brewed through the rites of the roots with the assistance of the aspect nectar. I'm trying to decide if I'm going to be making an effort on resurgences and emergences. Do I actually want to sit down and... Like, I'm kind of conscious of the fact that every time I want to do a high level... attempt, it does take me some time to work it out. I suppose the alternative, though, is like, how else am I going to spend the time? I don't have that much more time left in. I don't have that much time left in the season. Not that I'm expecting Numa anytime soon. So you know what? I'm going to take the time. Let's actually work out what my Moth and Grail options are. I can't remember if I wrote these down already. I have Grail and Moon, but not Grail and Moth. Okay, well, you know what? Here's what we're going to do. I'm sure I've done this before, but this is going to be a bit more of a comprehensive attempt. And I should probably, for my own purposes, write down a moth collection on its own. Just because I do tend to find moth as a bit of a challenge. So anyways, for Grail, the first and obvious one would be Beguiling Melody, which is the one that we're currently sitting on. So that one gives us Grail and Sky, but Grail is what's relevant here, so I'm going to write that down. So after that, we wouldn't be able to... So the ones that I usually think of are things like the Confounding Parable, because that kind of counts as 2, unless you want the Sky, because it's very similar to Impulse, or not Impulse, Intuition. I suppose the best bet would be to think of all of the mothy things, but I don't know, every time I try and do that, I stumble. So Gossip is I guess the next obvious one to me. That one is Rose and Grail, and of course the reason I'm thinking of that is because Reverend Timothy wound up giving me a few of those. And then in terms of the moth, Impulse is another obvious one, just because, well, it's one that you get early. That's what we get from traveling at night. It's also one of the few moth and nectar ones that you get. Now, I suppose we could get the Newman, so that's Sun's Weakness. So that brings me up to 4. This is where I kind of start to struggle a little bit, because, again, Grail is not as plentiful as it might seem. Oh, sorry, I forgot the obvious one, Satisfaction. But yeah, Grail is maybe not quite as plentiful as it might initially seem. Then again, we have a little bit more that we can work with. So if we get up to number 6, we could take Taste. Number 7 would be a Name Day Riddle. Uh, 8 would be the weather, rain. I'm going to write down 9 just because obviously if I'm waiting for the weather, then I'm really kind of taking my life in my own hands here. But what I might want to think about are like what are some of the higher level memories that I can make. So for instance, I talked about a Name Day Riddle, but I haven't been thinking about any of the other ones that I might be able to make. So, for instance, let's just double check here. The Hives... Okay, actually, yeah, so Hives Lament would be one of those. Ascendant Harmony, I'm assuming not. Old Wound, not. Now, under Memories, I'm just trying to think. So we already have... I guess I'd really need to be thinking about scholar level ones, because I suppose the Old Wound would be something which is a low, like that's the kind of a no cost one that I can get, but there aren't a lot of examples like the Old Wound. So I guess we covered Ascendant Harmony. I would, I actually can't recall if we've done a Hive's Lament before, but I do know we can get that out of oh, curses. I just leveled it up. Drums and Dances. Now the Thunderskin's Paean I know that's a high-level heart one, but I think that one might actually have Grail in it, so... And I actually can't tell you why I think that. But I will say that in the worst case scenario, I can still use that to level up Drums and Dances. What are some of the other ones? I think a winning move is yeah, so it goes winning move and invincible audacity. Now the winning move I think is pure edge if memory serves, so that doesn't really help me. The big one for me that I'm trying to remember is the Curious Hunch. Now, I guess one thing I can say about that is the worst that happens with the Curious Hunch is I just keep the Omen if it's not useful. Feels a little risky at this point, but like, again, I suppose the next question would be, what else? Now, the other one that I forgot that's a big one is the Old Moment. And that might actually crack this wide open. Because Old Moment I, for some reason, associate a lot with Lantern and Scale, but it does have a Moth component. And I think... I seem to remember the music a whole lot more. But I think that's all that I've got. The rest would be the Keeper level recipes, and as cool as those are also the most difficult for me to create. But you know what? Out of all of that, that gives me about 11 memories to be working with, so I think that is more than enough for us to get started. Now, we're going to be... we're still opening up the impermeable cell. I can't really see a situation where I bring Reverend Timothy in again. The big question for me is, do I want to try and bring in a fisherman? So the argument for the fisherman would be we can try and open up the wheel-filled spring. Or, if I'm feeling particularly bold, the sagging dock, but I'm thinking that's probably a bit much for me to try. Well, okay, you know what? Let's write this out. So, fish, 1 moon. Trist is 1 moon, so that brings us up to 2. Wormwood Dream would be 6, so that brings us up to 8. From there... the Lunar Globe... Let me just take a minute here to make sure. So I think the Lunar Globe is my only option on these. So the one thing that I keep forgetting is that the Pale Mommet is actually a device that I can use. But I don't think there's an equivalent device for the Lunar Globe. Actually, you know what? Here's the better one. Just find the devices in the house. Dear Day Lens I don't think has moon. Okay, yeah, so Lunar Globe for tool. So that brings us up to 9. So I suppose from there what we would be looking for would be food and drink. And I don't think I have, like, there isn't some kind of magic... there isn't some kind of, like, magic moon moon drink. There's the Black Sapphire Wash, but that doesn't really... doesn't give us what we need. Oh, hang on, but there is the Mist-Kissed water. So Mist-Kissed water gives us 2. That would bring us up to 11. But as far as food... oh no, hang on, the mackerel also gives us 2, so... Interesting. So I think we're still short. Yeah, we need 14. Man, that is really, really close. So yeah, taking a look at what I've got here. So we have the base moon from the Fisherman. Then we have Tryst, which will give 1. Then we have the Wormwood Dream, which would give 6. That brings us up to 8. The Lunar Globe would take us up to 9. The Mist-Kissed Water would take us up to 11. And the Mackerel would take us up to 13. So if I am forgetting an element that we can give them, we actually have it. And then the alternative would be if I can find either food that gives 3 moon or drink that gives 3 moon. Both cases, incidentally, I don't think exist. But it's just one of these things where I was sort of saying, okay, that'll never work. And I wind up saying, oh, actually, that's a lot closer than I thought it would be. So... so I suppose if I leveled up my Tryst, that would do the trick. But what I was really thinking about here was so even if this doesn't work out, we still have the option of the Gaping Darkness, the Riddling Stare, and the Wheel-Filled Spring. So I don't think it's a bad idea for me to try the Wheel-Filled Spring. If I go for the Moon, the Tryst, and the Wormwood Dream, that takes me up to 8. Lunar Globe, and then in that case we could just give them a glass of water. So, that brings me to the next challenge, which is, if I do that, am I still going to have enough left over for resurgences and emergences? So, we'll say 1 Tryst for Wormwood Dream, 1 Tryst for the Fisher, now that already leaves me short for Name Day Riddle, but maybe we do that with a Fete. Old Moment I think we can do with a Lantern. Okay. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 elements of the soul. 11 after I get the components that I need for the Fisherman. I think we will be okay to do everything that we want. So we're going to start. The necessary steps, and then we will see the whole thing implemented next stream. So we've got Edicts Martial. Now, to craft the Wormwood Dream, we need a memory. Can be any memory that we want, but in this case, we're going to have to give up the old wound. And we still need 2. Still need 2 moon. So for that, I'm going to give up. I think I'm going to have to give up the wood. I didn't exactly want to do it this way, but Driftwood Fragment. Now that has nectar. I don't know if I'm quite ready to give that up yet. I think I'll settle for the... Oh, hang on. You doesn't have the moon. Okay, well... So I guess a glass of water works for the shadow component, unless I feel... Actually, you know what? Phosphorescent scrapings we have quite a few of, so let's use that instead. Craft a Wormwood Dream. Wormwood Dream. Recall a forgotten crime of moon and winter. Sorry that took so long, but I do actually want to... I do want to make sure I'm getting these things sorted out properly. The Sweet Bones. The Sweet Bones has been the public house in Brandkrug since Cromwell's time. Its history is notable. Its beer is not. Guests looking for discreet employment or looking for discreet assistance congregate in the snug. So, half-crown assistance from a fisherman. In winter... oh, actually, interesting. So I have one more moon to work with than I thought I did, so we might actually be able to open that room after all. In winter, when the storms close the seas, the fishermen will offer their services for $1 a day. I don't want to mess around too much with the plans here, so I'm going to... I'm gonna stay the course. Now, before we finish off for today, I do want to sign myself up for the important stuff. So let's get... Actually, a name day riddle I need a memory for no matter what. And I don't think I want to give up... I mean, I guess I could give up the Earth sign and the... Let's see what the weather brings before I do that. Curious hunch. I can't remember if that was an edict's liminal or not. Clearly not. Preliminal meter, maybe? Okay, that wanted a memory, so we will oblige. Actually, the Didymos has knock. Well, why did I think that would show me something that I couldn't see already? I don't know what I was thinking, but... Okay, so one thing that I didn't anticipate was the bottleneck of memories. So that might be a liability. But I figured that I can at least make some first gestures towards... I can make some first gestures towards the things that I need. So the things that I don't need to worry about conversation for. So we've already got the Beguiling Melody. The Sun's Weakness, Taste, Name Day Riddle, Rain, Hives Levent, Thunderskin's Paean, and Old Moment. All of those are things that I can make without them being stepped on by conversation. And the catch is that most of them actually do require memories. So that's the catch. But it is something that we will deal with in the next episode. So thank you very much for watching. I am looking forward to seeing what we can pull off here, because we might actually go to some interesting places. But yeah, the main goal for today, I think, is going to be leveling up resurgences and emergences. What was it? Oh yes, Tuesday we don't have a broadcast as usual. In fact, that was the thing that allowed me to record last week's episode, so I will see you all Wednesday. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you for dealing with my forgetfulness. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.